Aspartame is going to attack us all, kidnap our children, and burn down our houses. At least that's what it feels like every time I go on a news website and click on the health tab. But is it actually? Because I'd actually like to know, if it's gonna do that, that would be information I'd like to know. Why is aspartame, everyone's friendly or not so friendly artificial sweetener, all over the news lately? And what does that have to do with you and me? Hey, I'm Jameisha. I sometimes do explainers, big ones or little ones. This one is a little one. Think of it as the corner of the internet where I gossip about all things to do with health, illness, and medicine. I'm not a doctor, not a scientist, but I can tell you what the girlies are saying on this corner of the internet. Shall we begin? Why is aspartame all over the news lately? I think it's an important thing to mention just before we begin. I say aspartame. I think Americans say aspartame. I'm gonna say aspartame. I might mix them up, but it's okay. Aspartame has been in the news because on July 14th, two agencies from the W.H.O, the World Health Organization, released a joint statement about the substance. One of those agencies, the International Agencies for Research on Cancer, the IARC, said that aspartame is possibly carcinogenic. Carcinogenic meaning cancer causing. But at the same time, in that same joint statement, another agency, which is another acronym, give me a minute, the JECFA, Jesus, I don't even have my glasses on. They basically are saying that the recommendations they had for aspartame in terms of the upper limit of how much you can have remained unchanged. What does this all mean? And I think a good place to start is the beginning. What is aspartame? Aspartame is a low-calorie artificial sweetener. It's 200 times more sweet than sugar. This is why it's pretty much everywhere. It's in diet fizzy drinks, in dairy products, it's in chewing gum, in tabletop sweeteners, it's all over the place. Aspartame was discovered in 1965 by a chemist called James M. Schlatter. He was a chemist working for the G.D. Seal and Company. Now, we're going to get back to that company in a moment because yeah, it gets deep. I feel like I remember reading about this in one of my science textbooks when I was studying in high school. British kids know exactly the ones I'm talking about. I think he was doing some kind of experimentation or testing when he was seeing the efficacy of an anti-ulcer drug and got some aspartame on his finger. And like a very strange individual, I guess, he licked his finger and realized it was sweet, which is wild to me that someone can be doing some kind of science experiment and then be like, risky move. Likkle. But it kind of paid off because that's when he realised that aspartame is actually a very sweet substance, and later on other chemists decided to work on it to become an artificial sweetener. And here we are today. But you weren't here for the history lesson on aspartame. The question we all have on our minds is aspartame dangerous? Well, when I was reading around, the answer to that is more complicated, as things tend to be. But it wasn't just a question about whether aspartame is dangerous or not. It's also a question about corporate interest in testing and regulation. This is not the first time that aspartame has been in controversy. To be honest, its entire existence as an artificial sweetener has been shrouded in controversy from beginning to now. So full disclosure, there's a timeline I'm about to go through. Most of that information and those dates I got from an article from Vox. So I will include that in my source list that will be in the description, but I will also include the sources from Vox, the direct sources they used in my source list as well. So you remember before I mentioned that company G.D. Seal? That was the same company that the person who licked his finger and discovered that aspartame was sweet worked for. So they were the ones that first tried to get it approved as an artificial sweetener back in 1973. There were independent scientists that had some reservations about how safe it was, about its cancer-causing potential, and whether it was being tested appropriately. But if I'm not mistaken, I think it eventually got approved in 1974 before that approval got revoked in 1980. But 1980s were an interesting time. Why? Because in 1981, Ronald Reagan became president. And who was on Ronald Reagan's team? The CEO of G.D. Seal. That same company where the scientist who first worked for them and realized that aspartame was sweet, and the same company that wanted to get it approved, the CEO was part of the presidential transition team. But even during that time, there were still people, scientists, expressing concern about the cancer-causing potential of aspartame. However, these opinions were not listened to, and eventually the drug was approved that same year in July. Now we jump to the 1990s and there are still concerns about aspartame. So to better understand the cancer-causing potential of this substance, the Ramazzini Institute in Italy, an independent non-profit laboratory, decided to do some more research. And apologies to any Italians for my pronunciation, I really did try. They decided to study the effects of aspartame on rats. Now, this is not uncommon. Many things are tested on rats first, but the way that they did it, and the reason why their study is seen as quite important, is because rather than just giving some rats aspartame and some rats no aspartame, they put varying levels of aspartame with multiple rats just to study the effects. And the effects were quite troubling. Many of the rats that were consuming aspartame developed malignant tumours, and these were in different parts of the body, the breasts, the kidneys, the nervous system. And what was also troubling is that they found similar results in some of the rats that had smaller amounts of aspartame in their system. Now, this study was big, and the reason why it was big is because it was controversial. Like, people had different opinions about the findings of the study. I'm gonna say something, yeah? I am not saying this myself. I read it in this article, so it wasn't coming from me. The word on the street that I read in this article was that some of the scientists that pushed back on the study about aspartame, some of them had funding from corporate companies that have an interest in aspartame being sold. I never said it, by the way. Whether or not that's true for me is besides the point. What's clear is that things are confusing for a consumer perspective. I'm trying to make an informed decision on whether I want to take this thing or not, but the information that is being put, the studies, the disagreements on these regulatory bodies is confusing. What consumers and regular people like you and me need is transparency, which is why it makes sense that the IRAC's current findings that aspartame is possibly carcinogenic are actually quite important. The IRAC from the W.H.O are seen as an authority because of the way that they do testing, the way that they conduct research. Hi, it's Jameisha from The Edit. Just wanted to add that it's clear in the report, but I didn't really make it clear in my video, that there is a limited evidence, which is why it gets the categorization as possibly carcinogenic, but it also mentions that perhaps more research is needed to fully understand this. But I guess the main question is, where do we go from here? Well, here's the thing. I feel like when you're a human being in 2023, life is about a journey of figuring out which decisions you're going to make, which substances you're going to put in or on your body, and the effects that they will have on you. Because if you go onto the IRAC's table, you'll see red meat, you'll see alcohol, you'll see cigarettes, you'll see night shifts. We're constantly having to make these decisions about the products that we have in our lives and about whether they can be dangerous or harmful to us all. What's clear though, that aspartame, which is now entering this conversation, needs is clarity. Proper clarity and communication and transparency. It's what we deserve. And I think the other part that's happening is that there's a distrust of these regulatory bodies. We think about the impact of COVID-19 and we think about how the messaging was unclear. It can make people feel really uncomfortable with trusting regulatory bodies. If I couldn't trust you then, why can I trust you now? All that to say, there's no right or wrong decision on the consumer end for this type of thing. You're going to make the choices you want to make, and that's okay. But for me, what I've come to realize from today with this little explainer is that the key thing that's needed is just plain old clarity, and that's often lacking when we're talking about health information and products and their efficacy and their danger. All of those things. But what do I know? I'm just a person on the internet just reading articles. Anyway, that's been the story on aspartame so far. This has been a Likkle explainer. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to just listen to the audio and not look at my face, you're very much welcome to listening to the episodes. They will be available on almost all podcast platforms, but also if you have trouble falling asleep, which I do as well, I have re-recorded these episodes as sleepy audio. So if you just want to listen to something that can help you drift away in a calming tone, similar to this one, you also can listen to it on Sleep Well. You can find these audios on Sleep Well by You Look Okay to Me, and they can hopefully help you fall asleep. Thanks so much for watching this video. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment down below if there's anything else you want me to cover. Follow You Look Okay to Me on all my social platforms. They'll be in the description below as well. And I will see you in the next one.